Am I live?
Yep.
I can't believe everything I just said.
I was like,
only
wait a second.
Tony.
I'm just sitting here listening to you. The chat's like, what? Where's Cliff? Where's Cliff? Where's Cliff?
It's not tech difficulties, guys. It's stupid fucking Cliff difficulties. Okay?
Some people thought you were taking a shit, I think.
No. I mean, I was taking a shit on Nazis, and now they missed all of that. And getting all that righteous anger up again.
I know. You got it.
There's going to be some work. I thank the Last Life Crisis for the 5 gifts. I was talking all about Louisville with the folks from Louisville, telling them how I met my wife there when we were trying to beat Mitch McConnell. You heard none of it. God damn it.
You got it. You got it. Keep going.
I'm going to keep going. I apologize. I hope we didn't lose folks here. I don't care. I can repeat myself. I do much of my life. If you have kids, you can repeat yourself. Trust me. You know, what I was saying is I have these great memories of Madison Square Garden growing up. I went to basketball games. I went to hockey games. I told you all, Billy Joel and Sting and the rest of it. And that these folks chose to recreate the worst of the worst that ever happened there. And the iconography was the same, and the flags are made to look Nazi-like, and the symbolism of it. They obviously will get to what they talked about, but it angered me beyond just normal anger, because they took this place. None of them are from New York City, as we learned, and Tony was showing. They're from garbage Staten Island. They're from Long Island that had to be pre-cleared by the State Department or by Justice to even have a map before the Supreme Court got rid of the Opus Dei hires at the Supreme Court, got rid of that pre-clearance requirement, because of course we were past racism. We didn't need that anymore, right? And now, of course, you see all of the discrimination, the voter suppression. But my point of view was they took this sort of hallowed place where there's beautiful music sung by incredible people that sing music about coming together but overcoming difficulties. Plenty of non-rock and roll, I will tell you. That is what I love. But find your Piano Man from Billy Joel about a group of people who are going through tough times in life coming together at this bar and finding a way, I mean, that sharing a drink they call loneliness, but it's better than drinking alone. Think about Sting singing about I hope the Russians love their children too, because we didn't want a nuclear war. Yeah, I saw that there. I saw these great moments there, and these fucking Nazis show up to defile the place with their stench, with their Long Island accents, because they talk like this, and you got to get your coffee before you come in. Oh yeah, you look at a couple of the blacks over there, the Jews, and we don't like them. We don't let them hang out in our area. Yeah, sons of bitches. I mean, again, the key is, first of all, that they even were there doing it because Donald Trump can't win. He's not going to win, as Tony's told you. I am as confident as Tony is. You don't go and hold a concert with Beyonce in Houston if you don't think you have a great shot at winning Texas, or you're worried about losing other places. And now you're going to say to me, but she's from Houston. Why, she is. Is Bruce Springsteen from Atlanta, Georgia? No, that's where they had him perform. They didn't have him perform for them at the Stone Pony in New Jersey because we're winning that fucking area by like 80 points. They had him come down to Georgia to perform. It just happened that, yes, they had Beyonce perform in her hometown, because her hometown has been an area that's turned hugely Democratic, and one of the areas where I believe, and I am going to look in the face, or the camera's face right now, and tell you, we're going to win Texas, and Colin Allred is going to win Texas, because the turnout there is supposedly ridiculous. The gender differential right now in the country was over 1 million more women had voted.
I wonder what that could say. I wonder what that could say about the outcome. Well,
I mean, not only, again, among single women, younger women, minority women, we already were doing amazingly as the Democratic Party, but now, post Dobbs, post all the attacks on in vitro fertilization, and even talking about attacking birth control and all the other crazy things these people say, all of J.D. Vance's comments just because he couldn't get a reach around in high school. He's a little fat pig, and no one would go, so he hates women forever, because Tucker Carlson hates his mommy because she left the family. All these little losers with their little problems that they can't solve in a psychiatrist's office. So they got to bring it to the rest of us, try to destroy what has been a united country in the past. And so yes, we've had many. Well, I just say many problems. I don't want to pretend it was utopia. I understand very much about what the past was in this country, but we were moving forward. Go ahead, Tony.
Well, I was going to ask you because I've been thinking since you told me about Staten Island and how that's literally where the city sent their garbage. And I was wondering about this because the joke that was made that everyone's been talking about, where Tony Hinchcliffe, which a lot of people didn't even know who the fuck he was until he said those jokes out loud and they had to Google him. But Tony Hinchcliffe said that there's a floating pile of garbage in the ocean and it's called Puerto Rico. And even in that room in Madison Square Garden, it didn't hit very well. Do you think now that I'm thinking about it, do you think it's because all those people from Staten Island are like, hey, motherfucker, what are you?
Yeah, they probably like, hey, look, we got a floating island of garbage. You don't like us either? You got a problem with us?
Right.
What, you got a problem with garbage? What's wrong with garbage?
Right. Do you think that's why it didn't land very well in Madison Square Garden?
I think it didn't land very well for a couple of reasons. One, it didn't land very well because it wasn't funny. How this guy's supposed to be
it wasn't a joke. It was just
I have to teach him how to set up a joke. You see, a joke has a setup that's based on a premise, and then the punchline is an exaggerated version of the truth. You can make a racist joke. I choose not to because I'm not a dick, but you can do it. It's just, I mean, we all have stereotypes, right? There's a stereotype about Polish guys in the Ozarks. Right. There's stereotypes about New York City Jews. You can make actual funny jokes about that stuff. I choose not to do it. I think it just separates us. But okay, you can do that. But this wasn't a joke. There's no garbage in Puerto Rico. There's no connection between garbage and Puerto Rico. He literally just wanted to make a racist joke that said what Donald Trump said when he called immigrants vermin, and those were Latino immigrants. He wanted to call Puerto Rican people garbage. That's what he wanted to do. So it wasn't funny. It was a statement made by an asshole who already in 2021 was fired from a number of his gigs, lost his agent because he started screaming, calling a Chinese performer before him the C word that rhymes with kink that I'm not going to say. And yelled all sorts of other anti-Asian slurs because he's a fucking cheap hack. He couldn't find his way around being funny. I mean, while he's searching for funny, he started fucking a sofa like JD Vance. He doesn't know funny. And again, I'll tell you, like what reminds me of the how we got here. You know what? And if you're not watching this, but I don't care. Fuck you too, Jon Stewart. Honestly, fuck you. I mean, Jon Stewart comes out and says, "Oh, he's not a bad guy. Oh, there was some humor in that." Yeah. What if I make a concentration camp joke to you? Will you appreciate that, John? But your family, like, shut the fuck up. He's the one who came to DC 20 years ago, whatever it was, and like, end the hate rally, end the division, because he had no understanding of our politics. It was based on one side polarizing themselves by hating the rest of us. The rest of us were reacting to it because it's not fun to have people calling you names, insulting you, and saying you're less than them. But one side chose to leave the consensus we had in politics and blame everybody else. So that Jon Stewart would stick out his stupid face at this point and make comments defending this guy, go the fuck away again. Go back to the animal farm you were on for 10 years with your wife. We don't need you. There's no defense for that. There's no joke to it.
Well, I was watching Corey Ryan Forrester. I don't know if you know who Corey is, but Corey Ryan Forrester, he actually he had a pretty good take on it because he's a comedian and he was trying to explain, like, you can make a garbage island of garbage Puerto Rico joke if you want to, and if you want to make it to where you're not offending like the actual people who live there, you got to be really creative about it. Like, you really got to have a really good setup. You got to have a really good misdirection, okay? Because you got to distract people from what is real, and then go into, like you said, what is the tough truth, right? Because there is some cause to say that Trump left Puerto Rico like it was a pile of garbage, right? He abandoned Puerto Rico like it was a pile of garbage. When the hurricane came and devastated that island, which they do a lot, Trump
tossed fucking paper towels at people,
right?
Like he's tossing a tennis ball to a dog to jump up in the air and grab. Yeah.
Right. But he literally left them as a pile of, like he would a pile of rubbish. Right.
And let's remember, this is the guy who it came out from what was it John Kelly said, they couldn't believe we were going to spend $60,000 to bury a Mexican. Oh, right. An American who happened to be from Mexico who served in our military and was killed at Fort Hood. But Trump wouldn't spend the $60,000. My guess is he would have buried her in his fucking golf course like his wife to get a tax write-off. But he wasn't going to he didn't want to spend the money to bury her, there. Because again, she's Mexican. These people are Puerto Rican. This is what these assholes have done. And you're right, Tony, look, I've told jokes before, and I've told jokes that make fun of certain groups and do stuff like that. I really try to keep it to a point where it doesn't get far enough that I don't think anybody would call it racist or whatever. I would hope not. But yes, I tell certain jokes, whatever. The ones I tell the most are self-deprecating. Whether it's about Jews, whether it's about straight guys, whether it's about white guys. I tell all sorts of jokes about people like me. Now I can get away with making Midwestern jokes. I can make New York City jokes. I can make whatever. But the point is you can do that. But again, I'm not a comedian. There has to be a setup, as you said, for a joke like that. The punchline can't just be, oh, Puerto Rico's just a big pile of trash like it's people, which is essentially what he was saying there.
Well, yeah. And that's the thing, is that the other thing about comedy, right? And you have a choice as a comedian. These are the choices that you have. And most comedians these days who are like MAGA comedians, they choose to punch down. And it's not surprising that the MAGA comedians choose to punch down, but you also have the ability to punch up. Now, one example
I'll just say quickly, Mike Williams, the Stone Pony, is in Asbury, New Jersey, Park, New Jersey, which is where Bruce Springsteen, famously, if you go back and read stuff, got his start playing. And that's why I mentioned that. It ain't voting Republican, I'll tell you that. And Sarah Christine, thank you for the $9.99. Thank you for all you do for democracy. Vote like your life depends on it. Abso-fucking-lutely. Go ahead, Tony.
So you can choose to punch up or punch down, right? That is a choice you can make. Now, when you choose to punch down, you are setting yourself up for the possibility that you are going to offend people, right? When you choose to punch down. When your aim of your joke, when the punchline is punching up, you're not going to offend as many other people because you're speaking truth to power. And generally speaking,
and that's a basic premise of comedy, right? The people that tend to, if you want to call it punch down to a certain degree, are people from individual groups that often have suffered in this country, blacks, Latinos, who might make fun of their own group because they're part of that group. Eddie Murphy or Chris Rock or someone making certain jokes, making a black joke. Okay? It's a different thing. And again, there's no, I don't ever believe, and I think there are people on the left who go too far with this. I don't ever believe that there are a few hard and fast rules, right? Use the N-word. Someone should fucking give you to Vladimir Putin on a 5th floor balcony, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, there's certain things that are pretty obvious that are just hateful and horrible from the past. There are people that can make mistakes, say things, go over the line, apologize, and you should look at the context, who they are. If I say something by mistake, if Tony does, you know who we are. You know what we stand for. And if we said something that offended you, just, come to us with goodwill and understand that we didn't mean it. So folks came to me and said, that it seemed it could be misogyny, that I was talking too much when Sherry was on the show. I believe they came to me in good faith and were saying, this is something that men often overlook. It is. And you come to me in good faith, I will always say, okay. You know what I mean? These are mistakes that I make. And sometimes it could be completely something that I don't even know I'm doing. I may not be cognizant of it, and it may be based on race or gender, because we all have some of that in us, based on where we were raised. But the point I was raising earlier, that I wanted all of you to understand when I was just talking to me, fucking Tony, the wall here, and a couple of lights, before I actually turn this on properly, is I was lucky. I grew up in New York City. People don't get that, again, that all these places were segregated. It wasn't just the South. All right. They redlined areas. I got lucky because the veterans, they built the place I grew up in, this middle class housing that had rent control. And I got to grow up, and my little gang, 5 of us, there was one who was like a French Catholic 2 Jews, and 2 black guys. That was our little group because it was integrated because if you were a veteran, you had the right to live there. And because Harry Truman had desegregated the military in 1948, which is why Strom Thurmond initially left the party, and then other right-wing Southern, Republicans did, or Democrats became Republicans. But the point is, so I got so lucky. I never knew that world. The world around me was one where my friends were diverse. And then I got lucky a second time because my parents sent me to this little school down in Greenwich Village in New York, and it'll sound like it wouldn't necessarily be diverse or whatever, called Grace Church, but it was this Episcopalian school that believed in the social gospel, the liberal, the help your fellow man and woman, we would say, of course, now. The, help the stranded stranger on the highway, not fucking kick them out of your country and build a wall. All of that stuff. Never forget that 1/5 of our class was Jewish, but my best friend, who was from Queens, was black. And that was another thing, because a lot of people were not going to school with people who didn't look like them. I don't know, Tony can tell you about whatever his experience is. He's younger than me, so maybe it changed by then even where he was. But even in New York City, we had these issues back then. So I got to go that way. I got to go to, and so to me, I remember these friendships. Madison Square Garden, New York is a place I remember in this positive way. And these motherfuckers defiled it by what they got up there. And they did that because they knew they could, because of the Jon Stewarts of the world, like, oh, that's not so bad. And because of people in the media who do the same thing, who have to pretend there's 2 sides to every argument, which is what I went off on that thing on Anderson Cooper for the other day. When there was a little argument on CNN where he's like, well, I always want to have legitimate conversations. If people come in, if people come here and they want to have and they have a legitimate opinion, or however you put it, there aren't legitimate opinions always. It's not a legitimate opinion to believe slavery should exist. It's not a legitimate opinion to believe you're not allowed to be gay. I'm sorry, we've chosen a free, forward-thinking democracy, and there just aren't 2 sides to everything. But the Republicans have hacked that system. They've hacked religion and they've hacked politics, because they've known that if you can hide behind religion and politics, you can get away with almost anything. You can say that I hate gay people because that's what my religion tells me, because they took one line out of a book. Mind you, if they're wearing different threads in their shirt from that same book, we should stone them to death. They don't bring that part up. Okay? Very convenient what they bring up and don't bring up. And so this group of people, and this is what so angers me, is that it's like the thing at Madison Square Garden was a culmination of in your face in one of the oldest arenas in the country, probably, for sports, because they knew they could get away with it. They knew that, we'll get some bad headlines out of it, and probably didn't think a comedian would be as stupid as that idiot was to get up there and say that kind of thing. That now apparently it's backfired in such a way. It is everywhere. It is in commercials in Florida. And I've seen, again, this could be fake. You never know. But I've had friends share with me sort of like chat rooms and whatever with dozens of people who are Puerto Rican coming out and saying they either had now changed their vote or they weren't going to vote. Now they're making sure to get out to vote for Harris. If that is at all representative, good luck, motherfuckers.
Well, I want to talk about that for just a second before I go.
You're not going. You're staying. No, it's up to you. Stay for a little bit. I don't have another guest coming on today.
I'll stay for a little bit.
I do like the back and forth because you make me smarter. So, like, for example, when I'm not on the air, your being here helps me realize I'm not on the air, and I don't just yell at clouds for 2 hours. So that's helpful.
I'm the best at yelling at clouds.
When am I going to remember that? Tony, you taught me this shit. When am I going to remember? It's really not that hard. You hit the loop thing so you guys get the intro, and then before I hit my opening music, I hit the fucking turn on the live stream.
It's all right. You'll get it. I've
forgotten twice now.
Here's what I'll say about the Puerto Rican comment, and you know that Trump's team is freaking out about this, and the reason why is because they have backpedaled on this. They've made excuses. They have clearly lied about this, that they didn't know that Tony Hinchcliffe was going to say these things. Well, they apparently were taking parts of his speech out because there were certain things he didn't want to say, which is very standard. It is very standard for a comedian who is writing jokes to hand over their jokes in an event like this for them to look at their jokes before they would go out and say them in front of a huge crowd. That is not out of turn that would happen. It happens in Republican events. It happens at Democratic events. It happens at charity events.
Listen,
this is a standard thing.
These folks have either they have speechwriters, which I've been before, or you write your own stuff, whether it's a comedy bit, whether it's a serious speech, whatever it is. And almost always, whoever you are doing it for, whatever politician, whatever businessman, woman, whatever, whatever it is, comedian, they make sure to vet it.
They're going to vet what you're going to say. Now, the other thing, too, is if you go off script, a lot of times you're never going to be invited back, right? Because sometimes they need it to be vetted and they say exactly what you want, especially in politics. Now, they vetted what he was going to say because it was in the fucking teleprompter. It was in the fucking teleprompter. They vetted it and they knew exactly what he was going to say. Now, they didn't think that saying that Puerto Rico was an island of garbage was going to have such an effect. And the reason why it had such an effect is because Puerto Ricans went, that's what they think of us. That's what they think of us. That's what they think of us is that we are fucking garbage, that we're not Americans, that we're some island.
La Vida Loca. What's his name again?
Ricky Martin. Jennifer Lopez.
He put it on Instagram
AOC,
right away.
Right. This is what they think of us.
What does he have? How many millions does he have followers? Does he have on Instagram?
I don't know how many millions.
And then it became Mark Anthony, and then it became Jennifer Lopez, and then others.
AOC, and the Tim Walz commentary on top of it. Tony Hinchcliffe actually quote tweeted Harris's campaign on Twitter with Tim Walz and AOC talking about his joke. And the crazy part is they live in such a fucking bubble that they thought Puerto Ricans aren't going to be mad at this. This is funny, but this isn't a fucking joke. This is real. This is politics. This is policy.
Bad Bunny, as Anna Cruz said, which again, that was the only one of them that I know of and don't know well, but apparently very popular with the younger folks.
Right. So, and here's the thing. There. And here's the thing is, when Trump's campaign knew this was a problem, because they knew almost right away that it was a problem, is because the entire internet blew up about this. They were like, oh, fuck, there's 500,000 fucking Puerto Ricans that live in Philadelphia. And if this motivates them to go vote against Trump, Trump will lose Pennsylvania. It is very, very important that the audience understands the reason why Trump and his campaign backed away from this is because they know this will make Donald Trump lose. This will make him lose. It can turn Florida to Kamala. That is how many Puerto Ricans
it can solidify the hell out of Pennsylvania, and it can turn Florida because there are enough in both of those states.
Well, even in a state like Arizona, there's a significant amount of votes.
And there's, I think it's 100,000 in Georgia, which ain't nothing. So
I'm getting a message here. Bad Bunny on Instagram has almost 46 million followers.
Yep, we had
not 4.6, 46 million.
3125 are one of our commenters. Ooh, religious stuff. Is here, it just said that, has 45 million followers. So you said about 46. So in that neighborhood, I mean, that's not good. And they're not, I'd be willing to almost bet you they're not like, Elon Musk's 200 million followers, or like Twitter, where 3/4 of them are fake. You know what I mean? Or more. My guess is his are real.
Yes, absolutely. And when you consider the fact that Trump's campaign realizes that they really stepped in a hot mess here, it just gives you the idea of where they're at, where their head's at, that they know that if they win this, they are going to win it on a razor-thin margin. That is the only way Trump is going to win, is he has to put together enough states to win this legitimately. Now they're going to claim Trump was doing it today as a little press conference at Mar-a-Lago. He's already setting the stage to say that I have won before votes are even cast. And I believe
he also already truthed, if you call it that. We should call it untruth, just because why not label it what it really is? He already untruthed that there's suspicions already that somebody is in Pennsylvania. His
name's Scott Pressler. He's with the RNC.
Right. Yeah, they get basically what they get is that they absolutely have to win Pennsylvania. There's no winning this thing without. That's why they put so much emphasis into that state, and why this hurts them in Florida, and it may kill them in all sorts of other places. But they don't even need to worry about Florida if they don't win Pennsylvania because it's done. And it's done. I mean, this is just going to add to already everything going on this week. I don't know about that poll. I mean, I think I got most of my little rant out, but I really was just trying to explain to people that two things. One, I got lucky in that I've got memories that were based upon my being in circumstances where I was always around diversity. And this disgusts me in that this defiles kind of one of the places that I went with friends and all of that, and goes back to such a darker age. But the second thing is, again, it's our mainstream media. It's our USA Today and Washington Post and LA Times. We're not going to endorse anybody, which we all knew it would eventually get there. Those of us who've been pointing out how full of shit the media is, what liars they are, the fact that they don't care about anything of substance, that it's all about clickbait for ad revenue. So it's all horse race crap. It's all he said, she said. It's all Kamala isn't convincing enough white men, because people might click and read that, that they're garbage. And that's why I've told you, you should unsubscribe from all three of those newspapers. Absolutely. The Washington Post has lost, I believe it's 12% of their subscribers since Bezos stepped in and did that. Do not. The Philadelphia Inquirer is technically corporately owned, but it is a large foundation that believes in liberal ideas. It was the only newspaper to call for Trump to get out after the Trump-Biden debate because they said Trump was such a serial liar. Subscribe to the Philly Inquirer, folks. They've got great columnists like Will Bunch. They've got great news coverage. Again, hopefully subscribe to me, subscribe to Tony. You really should get used to the fact that the nonpartisan media model is broken, dead. It never should have existed to begin with. They've never had that. In the United Kingdom, you have papers that tell the truth. The Guardian tells the truth, but they're a liberal newspaper and they don't hide it, right? That model is a stupid model. It doesn't work. And now they've broken it completely, proving that because we allow these large monopolies, another issue that Kamala and the team are going to have to take on when they get in there. You have to look back to some Teddy Roosevelt trust busting, because the fact that Jeff Bezos made this decision based upon business, because he's got so many other business interests. Well, if you're making it on business, then you don't get to own a newspaper. Okay? But man, would I love it if the people that are going to end up leaving USA Today, LA Times, already left the New York Times because they suck, leave the Washington Post. How I'd love it if someone like Mark Cuban started a paper and hired all of them. That was a legitimate, we're center left or whatever. We're not going to pretend we're not, but we're going to give you facts and truth. Otherwise, there'll be a couple papers at the Philly Inquirer. The Cleveland Plain Dealer said the same thing. I don't know who owns them, but they said from the beginning, their editor, Chris Quinn, said, we will not pretend Trump isn't what he is. He tried to overthrow our government. He won't accept the election. We're going to constantly tell you that. When, at the time Biden was running still, he said, we'll tell you when Joe Biden does bad things. But if Donald Trump was the one who's the threat to us, 98% of the time, that's what we're going to tell you. There's some others people have told me that are out there. I don't know what's true and what's not true about them. But those are the only corporate outlets you should be paying any attention to, giving your time, your money, anything. And then you should get used to the fact that the future is that we're going to have partisan outlets. Go to the people who are willing to fight for you, who believe in what you believe, but tell the truth. Don't go to people who fight for you theoretically and just tell you what you want to hear, because that's no better than the mainstream media. And there's some of those out there too. But the ones who will tell you the truth and fight for you, go to them. Because the mainstream media has absolutely earned its, it's shameful, it's ignominy. It's earned that ending this ridiculous system we have, where people read these outdated newspapers with these stupid concepts who won't tell you what's going on because they're scared of offending this business that this guy owns and that political party who this guy's friends with. I mean, the head of the LA Times, part of it's the guy's friends with Elon Musk because they're both tech guys. Is that how you want your news being given to you? By whether the guy's friendly with some crazy idiot lunatic who looks like Tom Cruise jumping up on the sofa on the Today Show every time he goes up on stage? Whee! I mean, that's not how you should determine who you're getting the news from. In any case, that's why all this was important to me, because we built up to this moment. And, and maybe there's the final part of it, and I think maybe Tony and I have already discussed it. But this is not about the election, okay? They were never going to win one vote from doing that thing at Madison Square Garden. They can say whatever they'd like. They can exist in the fantasy world they exist in, where also gravity doesn't exist and COVID was never a problem and all the rest. New York will not be a swing state. It will not come within 15 points. I'm guessing it doesn't come within 20. And so this was never about that. This was purposely about reigniting the symbolism of what went on there in 1939 and encouraging and sending out the stand back and stand by message to the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers and every other stupidly named right-wing group of clowns, because they already, there's been talk of leaked memos of militias planning to gather at polling places on election day. They want to, this is why, one of the reasons that A, Merrick Garland better not have his head up his ass, the DOJ better be on this, B, Homeland Security better be on this, and C, as many of you as possible should vote early. So they can't even threaten you with this.
I voted early.
There you go.
I've already voted. So I want to take it, give you some numbers here. Because, and I don't normally do this, but now I'm starting to look at these numbers. I'm like, no wonder the Trump campaign was like, Tony Hinchcliffe, who's that? He's a pile of garbage in the middle of the ocean. Ricky Martin has almost 19 million. Okay.
Wow.
Bad Bunny has 46 million. Let's see. Let's look at Mark Anthony here. I want to check him out, see how many he has. And then I'll tell you how many Jennifer Lopez. Mark Anthony has 13.5 million followers. But Jennifer Lopez, are you ready for this number? Jennifer Lopez on Instagram, just on Instagram alone, has 250 million followers.
Oh my God.
I would imagine that it was J-Lo that really made the Trump campaign go, oh, fuck, why did we let him say that shit out loud on stage? The wild part, though, is that if you watch certain clips of that rally, that Puerto Rican joke about it being an island of garbage really was the thing that would get Puerto Ricans' attention. But it wasn't the only thing that was racist. Like Tony Hinchcliffe, he was talking about black people and carving watermelons. He was talking about Mexicans. They like to get pregnant. And he wasn't structuring these things as jokes, right? They weren't.
I mean, oh my God, black people and watermelons, like, that's hilarious. How did he come up with that?
Right. I mean, again, you can make, if you choose to make a joke about black people and watermelons, you can do that. That is a thing you can do in this country. Now, if you're not really clever about it and you punch down on the black people and with watermelon, you're probably going to be called a racist. That's probably what's going to happen. I just want to warn you. Yeah. But if you're really clever about the joke, and you decide that you're going to punch up, you could probably make a joke that has black people and watermelon in the joke. If you're really clever about it, you're gonna have to work hard to structure this joke for people to understand that you're punching up, maybe, and not punching down. But you can decide to make that joke. That is something that you can do. But clearly you shouldn't get a comedian on stage to demean Puerto Rican people when Jennifer Lopez is sitting there with her Instagram account, who can in 1 second speak to almost 250 million people to tell them, hey, that joke wasn't funny. This is what they think of us. This is what they think of Puerto Ricans. Get your asses out there and go vote. Like, you do not want to do that. That is not a thing that you would want to do, but they did it. They did it.
No. And somebody in here used to mentioned Lisa Lampanelli, who's at Peter, is good in racist territory and includes herself. And you see, that's the key, right? I noticed that because I actually met her once. I was actually on a radio show with her once. I got invited.
Which radio show was it?
So, funny experience. The ex-head of Sinclair in Baltimore, with their headquarters, Sinclair, the right wingers, right? I contributed to Sinclair in 2004. I was the liberal who'd argue with all of them. He was there, and he was sort of a center-right guy. But his story, John Lieberman, was so interesting because he was so offended when he went to Iraq and they wouldn't report the truth that he released it anyhow and ended up getting in a lawsuit with them because they were all fascists and that was not him. So he left and he ended up working for Howard Stern as one of his gigs, right?
Mm-hmm.
As one of the sort of, just one of Howard Stern's like correspondents. And they had just moved over to Sirius Satellite where they had like 1 billion channels and they didn't know what to do with them. So they gave Robin her own show. And Robin knew that my friend John had been in politics. She's like, hey, we're doing this show. We want it to be funny. It's like a variety show kind of thing, whatever. And she's like, we've got Lisa Lampanelli, Phil Collin, the guitarist for Def Leppard, which is how I met Phil, by the way, who became a friend and will be on one of these streams as a guest after the election. So if anybody likes rock and roll and you want to hear from a hard rock guitarist, Phil has already agreed to come on. And me. It's like Robin, who's the non-famous person? And the reason that John recommended me is because they're like, we want someone who does politics, but not someone who's like nerdy. We want somebody who can make jokes, who's willing to sit there and mix it up and doesn't take themselves too seriously. He's like, I got just the guy for you. And that's how I went on the show. And that's how I ended up on the show with Lisa Lampanelli, who just would say the most outrageous things about having sex with black men and stuff like that. But that was it, is that she would make fun of herself. A lot of it was, yes, was there race in the joke? There was. But a lot of it was self-deprecating in a lot of the stuff she would say. She would say,
by the way, Lisa Lampanelli is one of the best wordsmiths that I've ever seen. I actually have watched a lot of her comedy, and she is super hilarious. And she
I wish I kept in touch with her,
do jokes about race. But again, you can make those jokes and you can decide to make those jokes. Now, what is hilarious to me about this whole situation, this is the funniest part about it all, is that Tony Hinchcliffe has Italian background, right? So at one point in this country, Italians and the Irish were treated as garbage, as trash, as the others.
And they were called, by the way, they were considered black. Right. That's always been what it's about here. They had darker hair, often eyes, and it's always been about whiteness. Who's more white?
Right. But the thing is nowadays, Tony Hinchcliffe, with his last name, he doesn't have to walk around being Italian. He can walk around just being white. He doesn't have to walk around being Italian. But Puerto Ricans, Hispanics, Latino community, the black community do not have the ability just to walk around being white. Most of them are not afforded the luxury of walking around and they can just pretend to be white. Hinchcliffe can do that. Now, no one knew who the fuck he was. Like literally millions of people went to Google to search who this guy even was because he was such an unknown comic. Now, I knew he was because he's in the Joe Rogan universe, and I follow Joe Rogan, what he says and what he does, and I follow that universe to see what comes out of that universe as far as political stuff. A lot of it is really comedy, guys. Honestly, Tony, Shane Gillis, Joe Rogan, a lot of that stuff that comes out of that universe is comedy, but they use that universe, their audience, to kind of pump them certain messaging to get them on board of a certain political issues, which is not uncommon in the way of media. But the point is this, is that I think it's funny that an unknown comedian, as Tony is, it's hitched. What am I saying?
I just think it's funny because I immediately, when I saw his name, this is from I'm a Diva, I saw that, I was like, I got pissed. I was like, I can't believe my name is even contained in this asshole's name. But I didn't think about Tony is in there too. Yeah. So it's like we're both part of his name. Right.
We just need a hitch. We just need a hitch on the show, and we'd have the whole shebang. But here's the thing: is that a joke that could have been taken out by the Trump campaign at Madison Square Garden with the glaze of 1939 America First, German American Bund Nazism, right? This one joke about Puerto Ricans being an island of garbage, or from an island of garbage, Puerto Rico, is going to take down the Trump campaign. And I would almost bet, Cliff, that the Puerto Rican vote in Philadelphia, or in Pennsylvania, but mainly Philadelphia, but
a lot of it's Philly, yeah.
Right. But in Pennsylvania, my guess is that the margin is going to be almost reflective of the amount of Puerto Ricans who vote in Pennsylvania. I think that's going to be just such a sweet cherry on the top.
I do too.
Of this Trump loss. Is that now? That doesn't mean that that's the reason why, but it will be such victory that because they're so stupid, because they're so tone deaf to what the country really fucking believes. They live in this bubble. They want to live in the bubble. They don't want anyone to penetrate the bubble. They don't like the wokeness, which means that they're in a bubble. They are asleep in this bubble, and it will be great if that bubble is popped. By the Puerto Rican margin in Pennsylvania is the same as the margin of Trump's loss.
Right, and when it comes down to, again, is the whole wokeism thing, how fake and ridiculous it is. Really, what they're saying in the end is we can make fun of. I don't like wokeness, which means they can make fun of anybody else they want and call Puerto Rico an island of trash. But if you say anything about Donald Trump, he starts whining like the little bitch that he is. Right, you can't insult any of them. They're all the most thin-skinned, weak, wimpy people. Elon, too. Oh, I'm for free speech. Try that. The moment Elon notices someone's ripping him on Twitter, like that disappears.
Oh, like, well, I mean, he's banned the word cis. You cannot put the word cis on Twitter. CIS. He has banned it because he sees it as a slur. Some free speech, right?
Yeah, right. So, I mean, that's what these guys, they're everything they say, as we know, is hypocritical. It's all patently false, and it's always a tell. It's always a tell, which is, what do they really fear? What is it that they really don't want being done to them? These are the things they want to do to everybody else, because that is what fascism is. It's about being the bully. It's about being the one that gets to tell everybody else what to do, pushing them around, threatening them with violence. And again, that's what the Madison Square Garden thing was supposed to be, a show of force. And it was supposed to send a message out there that we're not going down quietly. That if we in some way, we know we're going to lose. And I just think, look, the thing with Puerto Ricans there, and there are other things. There's a guy who actually, I think, used the word genocide up on the stage, that it might be necessary or something of that nature. So
well, he said slaughter. He said slaughter. Slaughter.
That's what it was. So they all were great people.
Grant Cardone or Cardon or whatever the fuck that guy's name is.
Plenty of wonderful people. Yeah, I think he's a financial advisor, so everybody should share that. I'm sure a lot of people will want his financial advice. But after they see that he wants to slaughter them. But I mean, again, they already were doing so many things to offend so many different groups of people. The biggest one, of course, being women. Because I think I was saying to you earlier, we expected this kind of vote with that differential, among certain groups of women. But key groups that used to be very much Republican, married women, exurban women, even suburban women to a large degree, they were moving away already, but in big numbers. But exurban women, I mean, there's even some evidence that they're losing rural women. All this toxic masculinity, over the top fake bravado by a guy that literally can't walk up a hill without getting winded. All of that coming from this group. It's like they may win they may turn out a few extra white guys, and they may win a few extra Latino guys here and there, and black guys here and there. But now they'll offend other ones and lose them because they've opened this up, because it's about, you can say anything you want. So you can say that Puerto Rico is an island of trash, and now maybe you've gained some Mexican men over here or some El Salvadorian men over there, but you've just offended an entire country of people, many of whom are living here in the United States. And by the way, if we do this thing right and win by the amount we should, and they want it, and they should want it because they shouldn't want to be a territory, perhaps a future U.S. state in the next couple of years. And that's the thing. I mean, in the end, for all the women, the married women they've lost, the rural women they've lost, the others they've motivated to come out and vote against them, younger folks and people of color and whatever. And now on top of all of that, they're even losing other members of larger groups that they're winning. Like this whole toxic masculinity crap, they thought would work for them. It's fun watching it fail.
I think you're right. And back to Pennsylvania for a minute. The margin in 2020, if I'm doing the math right, was just over 80,000, which I believe, if that's the case, I believe it was because I know North Carolina was just under 75,000 is the margin from 2020. It is the smallest margin that Joe Biden lost by and Trump won by. But Pennsylvania, I think, was third, I believe, third or fourth. Maybe it's second. But anyways, but by
I think Michigan grew. Like, I think Biden did a decent amount better in Michigan than Hillary had. I think maybe Wisconsin was still small.
I'm just talking about the slimness of the margin. Now, it was about it's just over 80,000. It's 80,555 is the margin. I believe that margin is going to increase with Kamala, and I think it would be quite a tell if 250,000 Puerto Ricans get out to vote. That's an expectation. About half of Puerto Ricans in Pennsylvania. The majority of Puerto Ricans live in the Philly area in Pennsylvania, but there's about 500,000 is the demographics. But if it is close to about half of that, that would be quite the tell. But I'm looking at the results here for the 2020 results of Pennsylvania. I want to also point out something. Josh Shapiro, in 2020, he won by a larger margin than what Joe Biden won by. And now there is a Libertarian and Green Party member, which a lot of those votes jumped from the Republican to the Libertarian, it looks like. And then I want to also point out that the Auditor General and the state treasurer both went to the Republican on the ticket. So this isn't like Pennsylvania's true blue, right? This is why Pennsylvania is considered what you would call a swing state.
It is a lean blue swing state where plenty of Republicans have still won.
They will vote in Republicans, even though they're voting in Democrats the exact same time. Now, this is important when you're talking about a presidential race as close or as razor thin as the media wants us to believe that the Trump-Kamala race is. Now, why this is so important and why the Trump campaign is freaking the fuck out about this Puerto Rican joke is because in that margin in Pennsylvania, Trump just lost the election if Puerto Ricans decide to activate and go vote against him, just to vote against him because of what he said. That is super important in national politics. And the reason why is because I want to let the audience know, if Trump cannot win Pennsylvania, if he is boxed out of Pennsylvania, he will not have a chance to be the president of the United States.
That's correct.
Donald Trump.
That's why they put so much effort in there. Right. Well, you see all his rallies there. Doesn't mean he doesn't show up to Michigan and Wisconsin and whatever. But their way to win is to hold all the states they won last time, win back the Southwest or Georgia. I haven't done all the math on it, and hold North Carolina and then win Pennsylvania. But
none of those maps work. None of those maps work without Pennsylvania. None of it works without Pennsylvania. And he also needs North Carolina. But again, that's what Cliff is saying. It's the reason why Kamala and Trump are making such big plays for Pennsylvania, because just as much as Trump and Trump's campaign knows that if he loses Pennsylvania, Kamala Harris knows if she wins Pennsylvania, she's going to be the president of the United States. So I just want the audience to know I got to get going. It's been fun. I want to tell the audience and tell you, Cliff, that we got you some mods. I was working on that in the background. So we got you some mods.
You got me mods?
Yeah, I've installed them and everything while I was sitting here. You didn't even know that. So we got you.
I don't know anything, dude.
We got you taking care of.
It's like I'm really smart at some things, and then other things I'm just a big idiot. And I can live with that.
I will tell you one other good thing about Jennifer Lopez's Instagram. I don't know if you watched the clip of The View, but one of their hosts talked about, because she's Puerto Rican. I'm not really sure what her name is. I think it's Sunny Huston, I think is her name.
Yeah, okay. It's not.
She was reacting.
Go ahead. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm not really I don't watch The View. I catch the clips when I need to. But Sunny apparently is her name. She's Puerto Rican. She's a host on there, and she gave her take of the Puerto Rican joke that Tony Hinchcliffe gave or made, and she was offended. But Jennifer Lopez has posted that reaction on her Instagram, which again, I know 100%. Donald Trump is fuming that a clip from The View smashing Trump and smashing his response to Puerto Rico and the hurricane in Puerto Rico. Not Ana Navarro. No, this is...
No, I'm just sharing. I think she's Puerto Rican too. And she's also...
I think Ana Navarro, isn't she Cuban? I'm not really sure.
You may be right.
I'm not really
I
sure.
think you're right.
The point is this. The point is this: is Donald Trump is fuming because it is going to get millions of views on Jennifer Lopez's social media, and that is going to really piss him off. And folks, I know it doesn't feel like it in this moment, but when we get to Wednesday next week, we are going to see that, as a matter of fact, the Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden moved the needle to Kamala Harris. That is what we're going to see.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to say when we get to next week, we're going to see that the Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden moved the needle further to Kamala Harris.
That is
as you've been saying, and as I've been saying before even this event happened. I'm sorry. I everything that I have read, everything I've seen about the difference in their ground games, which I've talked to people about on my show here before and yours. One has the most comprehensive one ever. The other one has Elon Musk jumping around and skipping around like a dipshit, I believe somebody said, who doesn't know what he's doing. And they've got 25% of the people that are coming in registered are frauds because they're paying people, and paid people are not invested and don't care. And the difference in the money that's been given to state parties is enormous. Trump just pocketed all that and fired people. The difference in the women who are going out to vote, as I've tried to explain to people as a pollster in the past, you ask people two questions right away. Are you 18 and registered to vote in the United States? If they say no to either of those, click. Second one, have you voted in the last two elections where you were eligible? If they say no to that, click. Now, maybe there'll be some of those women that will be counted in these polls now because they were activated in 2022, and maybe they voted in 2023, but maybe they didn't have anything in 2023, right? And post Dobbs, when was Dobbs? Like 2021? I'm trying to remember when that happened. There haven't definitively been two real elections, so there are plenty of people that, even if they answer their phones, will not be included in these polls because they will be considered unlikely voters. And that's who's been shocking the system. A lot of angry women about Dobbs and younger voters who they can't reach because they only have cell phones and they're smart enough not to answer them when these idiots are calling. Just like I called myself an idiot before. Well, that's one of the things I'm smart enough not to answer when all these annoying people are calling. I believe that most, even if it's not 7%, there's going to be at least a couple of points above and beyond what polling says that we will do. Okay. And then there's also the hilarious thing this week before you leave, Tony, that you have to have seen, with Nate Silver magically suddenly saying, there's a path for Kamala to probably win.
Well, of course he has to be on the right side. He has to be able to say, no, I predicted that she would win.
They're all coming over now, all these schmucks who, for lying for 2 months for clicks because they worked for people like Peter Thiel, who Nate works for. They all were lying and bullshitting you. And Tony and I told you they were lying.
Oh, fucking bullshit.
I mean, just click on, when you click on some of their polls, and they'll be like, and the Senate Regional Fund supported this poll, and you click on that, and it's literally some haven of right-wing nuttiness that shows them winning all of the Senate races that they've done polls in by like 5 points, and shows them winning the presidential race. And Nate and these other idiots were including all of these polls. So already the polls aren't real. Already they're not capturing people that are going to turn out who are not even in there, and already they can't account for the ground game. You add all of that up, and I was overwhelmingly confident we're going to win this thing unless they can do something that is violent enough. That's the only thing that I fear, because Merrick Garland has not done enough. I hope the Department of Homeland Security is on it. If they can make sure that everybody who intends to vote gets out there and votes, we're going to kick their asses. But now you're going to add in Puerto Ricans too, as a group who are going to be overwhelmingly pissed off and have. And in some cases, it's a +1 because they weren't going to turn out at all. But in some cases, it's a +2 because there are people who I was reading on these chats who were saying they were going to vote for Donald Trump. I don't know why, but they have now switched from Trump to Kamala. As you know, that's a -1 for Trump, +1 for us.
Right.
So,
well, before I go, I want to give a shout out to the new mods in the chat, Jim, Amanda, and Cynthia. You guys will find them. You guys will know them well from our
I know
chat.
you guys, I think.
I just went ahead and made them mods. That way they could keep the range until you find get some of your folks to be mods. They'll fill in and help.
Well, did we have some people who were causing trouble around here today?
Well, no, it's just spammers.
No, but we had one of them last time who was trying to pick fights with everybody. We had to
typical chat bullshit. Don't worry, these mods are fantastic. They'll get you through. And everyone, you know what I like about coming on this show? I like coming on and talking about numbers because I usually don't do commentary about numbers on my show. I don't like to do number commentary and like poll commentary other than to shit on them on my show. But I do like to go other places and let audiences know that I do, in fact, do look at the polls. I do as seriously as I can take them, because I believe that as much as you shouldn't really believe the polls the way that they do them now, you should definitely believe the enthusiasm gap in some of those polls, and because I think that is the most important thing.
That's what I always say is that if it's solid organizations, not the crappy right-wing ones, but if it's solid organizations, sometimes that you may look at it and say they're not getting the overall right. But if you know what to look for internally, when you're talking about enthusiasm, you're talking about growth among certain groups, you're talking about there are things you can look for and things that you can glean from them.
Right.
You know?
And it doesn't mean that it's exact 100%, but what it does mean, it gives you a sense of what the feeling might be out there. And that's what a poll is anyways, because the real poll, Cliff, the real poll is on November 5th. That's when they count the real poll. So get your asses out there and vote early if you can, and make sure you make a plan to vote. And that's my last pitch, and I got to go. So.
Yep. And I'd say now that includes everybody, as we already know. But now if you're in Kansas, and that poll is correct, which I have no idea if it is, you may only be down 48 to 43. So if you want to deliver Kansas
there and vote
to a Democrat for the first time since like pre-FDR, I mean, serious. I don't think the Democratic Party, did LBJ, maybe LBJ won Kansas in that landslide, but I'm just telling you, that would be a fun one. No, seriously, everybody, this is it. I mean, you know how important this is. I don't want to tell you about life and death and the future of our country and all that. You know it. I mean, we've talked about it. I mean, I suppose I will keep talking about it, but this is one of the 3 or 4 most important elections this country's ever had.
Well, keep talking about it. Take some questions from the audience. You got mine.
Yeah, well, we move to a part where I just want to take your questions, and we let Tony. He probably has to pee pretty badly at this point. Too many.
I gotta take a huge dump. I gotta take a huge.
There you go. Too many of those pierogies he eats.
I gotta take a huge Tony Hitchcliffe. I gotta take a huge one. I gotta take a huge Tony Hinchcliffe. We'll talk to you later.
That joke had a good setup.
That's
and
right.
A good punchline.
Boom! I got him. Fuck you, Tony. All right, see you guys.
Yeah. Take care, bud. All right, we can keep talking about any number of these things. I think I got twice my rant and my anger out of the way at Madison Square Garden, and what went on there, and that we've just even been allowed it to build to this point where they feel they can openly say these kinds of things. But I really want to know what you guys are thinking. And by the way, mods, I love you guys. Thank you for however you and Tony came up with the idea. I know a few of you said you want to do it, and I was hoping to get back to you, but man, that Tony guy moves quickly. But let's see some new comments here. Indiana. Somebody asking about Indiana. Look, I can tell you that, or are you just speaking to someone else about Indiana? I don't know. In any case, Obama won it in 2008. It hasn't been, I wish it were closer since then. Let's click on this if we can. But I don't view it as a state. We've got a great shot right now. J.D. Christie trying to click on your super sticker, 99-cent super sticker. Maybe I can do that. I don't know. But thank you. I really appreciate that. Again, all that goes into what allows me to do this. McCormick will defeat MAGA Mike Braun. Oh, I mean, if we're talking about local elections there, you know, I got to admit, I know there's a governor's race there. It's one of about 5 or 6 states. There are the New England ones that have a governor's race every 2 years. And then there's the states where Indiana, I think Montana, North Carolina, missing something. Is it Missouri that have them during the presidential year, which is interesting. That would be great if we could win. I mean, in the past we did win some governor's races there. There are times where Cliff's Edge. So where did you grow up? I did miss that. My apologies. No problem. That's from Carly. Oop, I clicked on the wrong one. So I grew up in a place called Peter Cooper Village. It is down the East 20s in New York City. So I grew up in Manhattan in New York City. And again, my parents would have moved there in the 60s, mid to late 60s, but it was built after the war to be, you know, we did a lot of stuff for returning veterans. And so initially, only veterans returning from World War II were allowed to live there. And it was rent-controlled housing. It was to, you know, we believed in those things back then, the GI Bill and rent-controlled housing. And of course, our side still believes in these things, that people that you know, especially people that serve their country, but everybody deserves a fair shot, particularly when, you know, housing might be out of their reach, and it may be out of their reach because they were at war and not earning what they would have been earning. So yeah, that's where I grew up, and it was incredible. I'm a Buckeye now. Yep, Carly said that to Mike Cruiser. I told you the story. I met my wife working against Mitch McConnell. I was living in Louisville. She was living in Lexington. We both were in the campaign. She's from Cincinnati here. I had moved back to Washington after being in Louisville for a year. Sadly, we did not defeat Mitch McConnell. That was a failure. But we moved back to DC, and we both had jobs there for a number of years. I built my resume, and then once the kiddos started coming along, we had to decide, and we could move back to either New York, which would have doubled our expenses from Washington, DC, or we could move to Cincinnati, which would cut our expenses by like 2/3. And this just, you know, it's only, people don't get it. A lot of people that are from the coast have no idea how close Cincinnati is. I mean, I did the flight home from New York today. It was an hour and 40 minutes in this direction. The other direction, it's only a little bit over an hour. DC is like a shuttle ride. It's just not that far. So we decided we would try it here. There's a lot of great neighborhoods. The city was really started, you know, revivifying and really coming to life again. A lot of neighborhoods being built up, 5-star restaurants and you know, great entertainment and that kind of thing. And I love it here. I love going back and visiting New York. It's a great place, and I still am a proud Manhattanite. But I would be lying if I said to you it wasn't easier to raise kids here. That is definitively true. But my younger son now loves New York so much that I think he's in high school. He probably loved to go to college there. We used to take overnight Amtrak to Ohio from New York when I was a kid. My buddy, oh my God, you got to tell me if that went straight here, because I'd love it. I mean, the Amtrak line was my life. I went to college in Philly. I lived in DC. I lived in New York. Even lived on a campaign in Portland, Maine for a little bit. Screams is asking me what's going on with Aaron Judge. A little bit off the topic here. You know, that's a long thing to discuss. I don't know. Sadly, I don't know if he has the mental fortitude for the playoffs. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but it isn't just a slump at this point. Slumps come and go. He's been so bad. I mean, I would argue that's probably the biggest reason that we're not playing well. They should have moved him down the lineup. I think that was a major mistake when Stanton's hitting the way he is. I would have switched them and made Judge fit. But I don't think most people here, well, maybe they want to hear about baseball, but maybe not. Carrie Lake is a petless rat lady. Well, yes. But she's got a nice filter. She can filter it all out. What else? Let's go Dodgers. Diana, that hurts. Same with Cohiba Man. That hurts too. And you really don't need to say let's go Dodgers anymore, okay? They're up 3-0. I think it's gone. I don't think you're going to have a problem winning this one. This seems to be done. Paul Young, native Louisvillian. Yeah, I love Louisville. Great town. Has a lot of the same problem that a lot of these places have. Cincinnati, too. You drive 20 minutes from here and you're suddenly in MAGAville. Hell, but Cincinnati itself is a liberal, forward-thinking town. I really enjoy it. Louisville, much the same. Who's the bobblehead catcher? Great question. It's Tyler Stevenson of the Cincinnati Reds. I do believe that as someone who is now a Cincinnatian, I brought my kids up to like the Bengals and the Reds too. They cannot just be New York fans. That is not fair because a lot of their family is from here. Frank, you lived in Philly? You have to tell me about that. I lived there, but I went to college there. So West Philadelphia, not born or raised, but that is where I lived during my college years. Last place I lived, I believe, was between 39th and 40th. I'm Delancey, just off of Spruce. I loved Philly. What a great town. Gotta tell you, when you have a few too many drinks, cheesesteaks at 2 a.m. is the best. Peter Cook, Kansas voter here, voting blue. Absolutely. And again, Peter, I don't know if that poll is correct or not, but it doesn't really matter, does it? You should run out there and vote blue no matter what for everyone. You guys elected a Democratic governor. Frank Stoller, Pats. I was more of a Jim's guy on South Street. Always liked Jim's for my cheesesteaks. But Pats, is Pats, I don't remember. Is that the crazy right winger? One of the two of the famous places there. Although, again, am I the only one who thinks Cliff reminds me of Quentin Tarantino? I wish I could come up with some script like he does. I think the dialogue in his movies is something else. What do we got? Small town, about 5,000, southern Wisconsin. Can tell the teachers' houses on Main Street. Harris wall signs. I love hearing that. Again, these are the things that are making me think that we're gonna do this. I'm seeing the same thing. Again, I'm seeing these signs in places that I've not seen these signs before. The Harris wall signs. And again, I don't ever judge an election just by signs. It needs to be a combination. This is what people get wrong in sports and politics. It's not just statistics, just the way it used to be, just vibes, and that's wrong too. But there need to be both. You can feel momentum. You can feel confidence. You can feel fear in the other side. You can you can feel when like the zeitgeist is changing and people who used to be scared to put out Harris wall signs are now putting them out there because they're confident. That stuff matters. It does in elections because courage is a lonely thing if no one else has it. But once a few people do it, others will do it, and it's amazing. That's a leader who helps others to have courage. And so that is part of I look at all of these things when I kind of make analyses. Do yourself a favor, unhook from mainstream media. I agree. I'm unhooked. I unsubscribed. It didn't take me more recent stuff. I unsubscribed from the New York Times pretty close after the 2016 election when they said that there was no connection between Trump and Russia. They really got that one right. And the Washington Post at least a couple of years ago. What's your opinion on Dems taking the House, Cliff? Oh, I'm almost certain. C. wrote and asked that. We're taking the House. I am near positive that that's going to happen. They have, a couple seat edge. Now that New York has been fairly, they've got about 5 people that could lose in New York itself. But they had that district that they had stolen from us in Alabama and all these, and a number of other close ones we had lost. I'm more confident of the House than I even am of the presidency and some of the Senate races we're going to take. And I'm very confident of those. We have fuck Trump spray painted all over where? Baltimore City. Nice. Baltimore City, Maryland, a good blue state. I did live there when I lived in Washington, D.C. I lived in Chevy Chase, right over the border, for around 2 years before we left and moved here. Stretching your body is good for you. I agree, Naomi. Yes. Stretch, workout, very good for you. Try to meditate a little bit if you can, or do yoga or whatever you like. All of these things, I know they sound like whatever, touchy-feely. Not working out, I guess, but I'm telling you, it gives me a better, what's called a mental edge and gets rid of anxiety. Do you think we'll keep the Senate? I do, because I will admit I'm 50-50 on John Tester. I know that Kamala will be closer than Biden was, and that will make it easier. But that is a tough race in a tough state for us. So I'm not sure. It's the hardest race for me to pick, but I've told you I am confident Allred is going to beat Ted Cruz. So if we win the presidency, and if we were to lose Montana and win Texas, then we would even need yes, we would need that seat. Then we'd be at 50, right? Because we're losing West Virginia no matter what. So we'd be at 50, and then we would have the tiebreaker. But I think we're going to win Florida too. Rick Scott. It's not going to help Rick Scott with Puerto Ricans either. Rick Scott just dropped $10 million more in Florida because apparently he's scared that his ads aren't doing enough. There's the abortion rights on the ballot that's going to turn people out. Rick Scott is not even liked by some of his own party. I think he and Ted Cruz have been ripe for the beating for a while, and I think those are the two that we pick up. And Tester, I'm not sure about, and I think we hold all the other ones. So I think we end up with either 50, 51, and there's a slight chance 52 if Tester can do it again and hold on. But as long as everybody is on the same page and are true liberals and moderates and not fake moderates who really are just assholes like Cinema and Manchin. And I mean, the key is if they're willing to vote to get rid of the filibuster, then suddenly the amount of legislation that we can pass that will change this country is enormous. So yes, I think we will keep the Senate. And as Carly says, we need both. I think you're talking about the Senate and the House. You are correct. We need the Senate and we need the House. What else do we got, guys? Do you think Hawley will be beaten? Oh, God, that's another tough one to pick. I want to pick Lucas Kunce. I know that Missouri is going to be closer than it's been in the past. I think that Hawley may just hang on, barely. I hope I'm wrong. And everybody should still go out and vote for Kunce, who seems terrific. Sherrod Brown, I have a lot of faith in, and the numbers, somebody's asking that. The numbers here are going to be most likely closer. We lost by 7 to 8 points here on the presidential level. We're going to lose probably about 3 to 4 this time because it was even closer than that, but they've been spending and we haven't, and Sherrod Brown can overcome that. He's a terrific politician. So I actually have a lot of confidence that Sherrod's going to hang on. What about the little secret about Mike Johnson? What little secret could you be referring to? I don't know. Maybe if that little secret comes out, then he may not get reelected. I am a diva. I will make peace with Cruz and Rick Scott losing. Honestly, if we could beat those two bastards, that would be a really great election outcome. Because if you could beat Trump, and the thing you always want to do when you've got a movement like MAGA of terrible people is you want there to be, I don't know how else to put it, but we always put it this way, and I don't mean this in any other way people may think, but you want scalps, meaning you want to take a few of their big name people down. Ted Cruz, why he hasn't been in a court of law defending himself for sedition, I don't know. He actively was meeting with Donald Trump, during the time they were planning it. He has no business being in the Senate, and Rick Scott's just an awful human being who I believe still holds the record for taking the Fifth Amendment the most times in a civil trial when his company, he made God knows how much money and ripped off Medicare regularly. The Trump statement at Madison Square, about what secret he has with Mike Johnson? Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know what the hell that is. I guess it's more that Mike Johnson has agreed to pass some legislation or do something for him. Or maybe Mike Johnson's going to try to upend the counting of the electoral votes. And again, he may try to make it so that they won't accept them and they object. And we better damn well have the Department of Justice ready. We better have all of our people ready. I don't know how we wouldn't be at this point. I mean, we've seen it. We've seen his movie, right? Speaking of seeing his movie, who has Valkyrie in here? Tom Cruise? Somebody's asking about, I saw a Tom Cruise thing. Yeah, well, that's where they tried to kill Hitler. My God. Talk about bad luck. They kept just missing. So disappointing that Tester is such a close race, Martin. I agree. Tester anywhere else. Not anywhere else, but more blue state would be easy. Guy is missing 3 fingers from a combine. He's from a multifamily farming, family, knows it. All these people is there. I mean, he's the real deal. He's a legit dude. he's not fake like these people like Hawley and Cruz who pretend they live where they live and they're just creatures of Washington, JD Vance. But I think I think Tester's got a good chance of hanging on. I really do. It shouldn't be that close. And I think Montana will be closer. Montana, there's definitely some MAGA elements out there, some white supremacist elements in the western part of the state, but there's also a lot of actual libertarianism. And, we've been getting closer and closer in Alaska, too. I think some of that exists in Montana because there's people that don't just call themselves libertarians because they're embarrassed to say they're Republicans. They're actual libertarians. And a lot of what Trump's done has offended them. So I know a few actual libertarians who've switched over and are voting Democratic now. So Montana, even if Kamala can make it, would Biden lose by 16, 17, 18? If Kamala could hold it to single digits or 10 or something, I think in that case, if Tester doesn't have to make up much more than that, I think you win. And again, he won when Biden did what Biden did. So I think there's absolute, yes, I'm reading here, where is it? I think there's hope for Tester. Whoever had that. Marcia, I think you're absolutely right. There's the one. Don't think Cliff knows that. What don't I know? Oh, he lost his fingers in a meat grinder? Is that what it was? Okay, my apologies, but still lost his fingers working. I believe, as he said, I think he said working on a farm. So, hey, look, my kid is sending a picture to me of me doing this right now because he wants to make fun of me. Thanks, kid. All from school today. Kids will be kids. I got 5 dozen eggs at Costco last month for $13.99. Just all do were there, $2.16 a dozen. Wow. Seems that JD Vance was lying in that video about that. We knew that because the price was right there. Okay, guys. What else do we have? A couple more. I am tired because that kid who just said that to me. We went to New York for the World Series and didn't go our way. But that's not why I'm tired. I'm tired because we were up late and got up really early this morning. I think just being near Trumpers makes you tired, doesn't it? Like, I don't know. I think they put out some emission into the air that sort of harms one's immune system. I'll take a few more questions. A couple more minutes of this fun. What do we got? My grandmother was Rosie the Riveter during the war in Wardstown, Kentucky. Nice. Wardstown, Kentucky. Colin Alder is a must win. Well, I agree with that. Especially in case Tester doesn't pull through. But I think he's going to win. I've seen all the signs there, from the turnout in Texas being absolutely enormous to turnout among women being enormous to the fact that Kamala again went there with Beyonce and was willing to do a huge event there. The Republicans that stepped up for Kamala already, Liz Cheney, Evan Kinzinger, they haven't done that for everybody. You've noticed they haven't put their time in everywhere, but they put their time into Texas. They were looking at numbers too. I think there's a lot of evidence that Allred's in a position to win. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. What else we got? Women will decide this election. Yes, they will. I can tell you, Lori, that I hope men become smarter sometime soon. I think we should have a watch party. I'm Diva. That's a good idea. Maybe I'll talk to Tony. Maybe we'll do a co-watch party. That could be cool. You guys be into that? Co-watch party? Rock and roll? Do the Trump dance? I think Dave Bautista called it masturbating giraffes. Oh, Dave Bautista's hilarious. Stop playing no more games. The Dodgers won the World Series. Don't you say that, Barbara. There's still more games. It's not over till it's over, even though it's kind of over. And my son, if he's watching this, don't make a teenager get upset. Okay, don't be mean to kids. Be nice. Rhodes team just showed up at Bannon's press conference. Oh, was he doing a press conference? Is Hal Sparks just doing 24 hours? Hal's nuts. I'll have to talk to Hal. Maybe we'll all combine something. I don't know. I can talk to Hal. I think some of you guys know I go on Hal's show every Monday. Was on it from New York yesterday. So maybe we could do that. Cliff, join the Discord. That's Tony's, I believe you mean. Tony TV is telling me that. Okay. Or do you mean Hal's? Is Hal the Discord? I don't know. There's just Discords galore out there. I don't have my own, but I could join a couple others. You know what I'm saying? Cliff, what's your Trump blowout prediction? I think it's close to 100,000. Do you mean votes? I mean, I don't think he's going to lose by many millions of votes. I think he's going to lose. Cliff, you feeling good overall? I'm feeling good overall. Yeah, I think he's. I mean, Tony said 20 million. That's quite a loss. Now, I think Biden beat him by what, 8 in the end, something like that. It's going to be more than that, significantly more. I think I could see it being 12 to 15 million. But you know, I hope Tony's right. 20 million would be fantastic. And then we're talking national popular vote, of course. Most of the coup planning for this time is being made on Discord. Perhaps that's true. Are you live every day? Christina, I am not. So far, I'm doing Tuesday and Thursday. But I think next week, because you've all been so awesome, I am going to, especially with it being the day after the election, I will add Wednesday. And if that works and you folks are kind enough and show up and ask me good questions and let me rant away and make obnoxious jokes and, you know, we have a good time, then my goal is to start doing a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we'll see if we can expand from there. I may get to Monday through Thursday. I'm not sure. I've got certain other stuff I have for my other work that I'm not sure I can ever do Friday, but I might be able to do Monday through Thursday. We'll have to see. Deborah Cornett likes my jokes. Deborah, you are awesome. You should win something for that. I'll find something that you will win. So look, guys, let me encourage you. I actually just recorded a video that I'm going to put up. I actually recorded the other day. I went to New York and wasn't able to, but I'm going to put it up for my YouTube members because I owe them videos. And for my Patreon members, I'm going to encourage you all to please join and become a YouTube member. There will be merch. There will be stories. There will be. I think we'll do some Zooms or things, depending on how many there are, where we can actually talk to each other or looking at each other. Should be kind of fun. And you'll get regular videos from me. So please join become a YouTube member, or if you're rather Patreon. I haven't asked yet. But I'll say if you have anybody wants to give a super chat, I can read it out. That would be wonderful. A couple of you already have super chats, super stickers. Those, of course, help me do this kind of thing. Put in this time, which I love. Again, this, I purposely put time at the end here to go back and forth with you all because this is my favorite thing of all. Mel Walker, do you know Gabe Sanchez? I don't. I know who Gabe is. I've not actually met him. Where's the membership link? That is on, if you go to my YouTube and click on there, you should see it right there where it says members. Go do that, and or I can look and see if I can find it. I don't know if I can send you a link to it. Let's see if I can do that. Up at the top here, it's membership. If you look at Cliff's Edge, if you go to the main page, right, which is just youtube.com/Cliffs_Edge, across the top, home videos, shorts, live, podcast. The second to last one over is membership. All right, so you can join there, and I would love you for doing that. Alto Eager with a $1.99 super chat. Thank you. Right before we're out the door, Jim, of course, being a great guy and sharing my link, so you can go to my YouTube and join and become a member. And again, I'm going to put that video up a little bit later today. There, hangers, cliff hangers. Yeah, we create some of those. Come up with some cool merch ideas. And I do have some merch there. I haven't pushed it yet. Go check out the merch store. Of course, don't have that link for you, but I'll make sure I have that by Thursday. Play out the scenario of Biden firing Merrick Garland this week. Well, yeah, I think Sherry talked about that on one of my last shows, and that would be, I don't know about this week. I don't think, thanks. We just got a subscription from James Jaramillo. Thank you. I don't think this week's a good idea. You don't want that before an election. It shakes things up. It may lead the mainstream media to start attacking Biden. The time to do it is next week after the election. And in that case, you would go to Merrick Garland and you would ask him in strong language to step aside or have others ask him to do it. And then you would appoint, you wouldn't have to go through the Senate. Remember Trump with all his interim folks, an interim attorney general until you're sworn in, Kamala is sworn in. And during that time, that person could pursue Trump and others in the manner in which they should be pursued, and which, in my opinion, Merrick Garland has done maybe about a tenth of what he should do. NL Love voted blue down the ticket. You are awesome. All right, guys, this has been great. But I think if I don't start heading for the exits now, I may just be here all day because I love this too much. And I'm probably going to pass out because I was up about 5:36 in the morning and then was on a flight and then got back here and then came straight over here. You guys are great. You're awesome. I really do. I appreciate this so much. I enjoy making the jokes that some of you said you like. I enjoy ranting and getting serious with you and letting you know. I enjoy sharing information that hopefully helps edify people. They know more about this and don't have to listen to the BS from the mainstream media. And I like attacking right-wing losers who suck because they attack my country and by extension my family because they're trying to ruin our democracy. So these are all things I enjoy, and the interactive part is the best part here. Last one I'll ask Mel Welker, is Merrick Garland actually MAGA? I don't think he is. I think he's one of many cowards. Democrats have gotten rid of most of our cowards, but if you remember from 10, 15 years ago, most of our people were like, oh, no. I know you insulted me and said I should be in prison, but we don't speak that way on our side. And now you've got Swalwell and Ted Lieu and Gretchen Whitmer and Gavin Newsom. You've got Jared Moskowitz and Jamie Raskin and Jasmine Crockett. You've got all these folks who are willing to hit back. Diva, $1.99. Thank you. You're awesome. That is always helpful. I appreciate it. Please like and subscribe, as Cynthia Rice says. And with that, folks, I could answer questions forever. I love you guys. You're awesome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to do this. And I will catch you on the other side.